Welcome, Martin Tronquit, to our show, Master AI Disruption. This is our pleasure, Luis Monterrubio and myself, to have you here on this podcast. Our pre-podcast conversation was really insightful. So we're excited to hear everything you have to share. You being based in Dubai with a team around the world, right?
Yes, correct. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, my pleasure. And I will hand it to Luis, to start with his own questions.
Sure. Thanks, Francis, and Martin, welcome again. So you've been in the forefront of research, data analysis, and brainshoring to provide meaningful insights. Your journey at Infomineo has been fascinating, and particularly how you've navigated the evolving landscape of business intelligence, integrating AI into your offering. So can you share your journey with us, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Luis and Francis, for welcoming me on the show. I will make it quick. So essentially, I'm French, like Francis. We share the same accent. Graduated from HEC and spent 7 years at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, where I was a consultant and a project manager. And there and then, I was figuring out that data was critical for consultancies, especially when it came to emerging markets that were difficult to tap into. I was spending a lot of my time doing that. And I saw an emerging industry emerging, especially out of India, with former consultants outsourcing these research tasks. And at that point in time, I was helping with the opening of the Morocco office of BCG. And I figured that we had great talent in that country, Morocco, and that the model of outsourcing to the other side of the world, out of India, was having some shortcomings with time difference, cultural differences, and so on. And I figured that we could do something more nearshore. And the idea was to increase the level of value at what you could outsource by doing it from closer. And that's where we started together with my partner Hamza from initially Morocco. Long story short, a few years back, we went up to 350 people. We multiplied offices. So we initially started from Morocco. We also created an office in Cairo in Egypt, which is the biggest office now in the network. We also have an office in Mexico. So Mexico serves the Americas, Morocco, Europe, and Egypt, the Middle East. And we also have small presence in Dubai as well as in Barcelona, mostly for business development and support functions. So that's in a nutshell what we do. And one last point, Francis, you told me to keep the answer short, is we like to call what we do brainshoring. And the idea really is that offshoring has always been a story of lower cost, low value add. And the idea we had was that there was equally good talent and brains in emerging markets. And the idea is to outsource offshore brains, and that's why we called it brainshoring.
Great, that's a fascinating idea. I think it's very catchy, and it must have been helpful coming up when you founded the company back then. But now that the technology's evolved and certainly AI has come very quick everywhere, how do you find yourself competing with the AI and in terms of your clients using the tool as well?
So it's been an interesting journey. The first 10 years, we were in a fairly stable environment. So the company has been growing very steadily and very fast in a stable environment, not much change. And since the arrival of ChatGPT and then all the other LLMs and the deep research engines last year, the industry has been transformed in a matter of 2 years more so than in the 10 years before. And we did like everyone, it was a journey. First year was like this belief, okay, this thing is here, we don't figure out how to use it, it's out there, but it's a revolution, and let's just be on the lookout for what's happening. That was the first year. Starting the second year, we started understanding how it could really work. And the aha moment for us was the emerging of the deep research models. These models would really essentially be able to screen a lot of sources and provide you a summary of what you find on the sources. In a nutshell, it is a Google on steroids, right? It does the same as an analyst going on Google, looking at 40 sources, the most relevant, summarizing that, except it does it within 30 seconds instead of 2 hours. And that was the aha moment. And then we figured that our journey with AI was to be expert users of AI, that we would prompt them in an expert way that no one else would be able to do, and that we would get much better results than anyone. I think this is true, this holds true. It requires expertise to use AI properly, but it's not at all the way the market is going. The market is going where currently our clients believe that they can do everything themselves, they're going to be amazing, and so on. And they don't see the value of us doing research with better level of expertise. They see the value in something else, which is they start seeing that AI is a very risky thing. It's a super powerful tool, but it's very risky. It's like you put a Ferrari in the end of 5 years old, it's likely to end up in a crash. With AI, it's the same thing. Somebody that doesn't know how the data is built, what hallucinations can be, the fact that if you put your own data in most models, it would go out there in the market, the fact that it will not value the sources according to that reliability, but only about a statistical analysis on the volume. All these things make it a very dangerous tool. So our new positioning and what we think we will add a lot of value is coming after the people that think they have done a good research with AI to say, one, we're going to make sure that you don't have too many mistakes. And it means let's look at the consistency, let's look at the quality of sources, let's really audit and reverse engineer how the research was done to make sure it's proper and done correctly. And the second is what we call enrichment. We have a framework that I like, which is that of an iceberg, where in the world of data, the tip of the iceberg is what is publicly available on the web, right? On Google, you Google it. And that's why 99% of LLMs do. They only go to publicly available information. But below the flotation line, which is the line of the sea, there's tons of information. Anything that is on websites where you need to make a query. I don't know if you want to know the GDP of Zambia in the last 70 years. It is freely available, but you need to go on the World Bank and input a query. Most LLMs cannot do it at the moment. So you're missing out on that information. If you want to get information that is published on social media, if you don't have an account, you can't access it. Most LLMs cannot access information on social media. And I've always said that the data is stored in two devices. It's either on silicon, be it your computer, a server somewhere, or in neurons, which is in your brain. And for computers, you just need an access to the web, you get access to it. For the brains, the only way to get it is to call people, to get those insights. And here, AIs will start being able to do that in the future. But for now, humans are much better geared. So that's what we do. We help our clients correct the information, make sure that they don't put stupid things out there. And the second, we'll help them enrich the insights. Because what you want is you want to make decisions on things others don't. By definition, everything that an AI can provide to you will be accessible to all your competitors. So it's not giving you any competitive edge. So that's where we're focusing on at the moment.
Great. Yeah. It seems to us that your offering is very clear, and we also seen that you're very active on social media, sharing these ideas on how to use responsibly the AI because of what you were saying. Like people usually just take whatever the first delivery of the LLMs is, and they don't do much digging about it, but you still having that close touch to validate the quality of the data, and we feel that's very interesting. So what made us think is that how are you guys at Infomineo dealing with the commercial side on your end, keeping up with clients to share this differentiation that you have to keep them on rolling, and are you leveraging any AI yourselves to get the clients' leads in?
I think there's two questions in one. One is what do we do with AI, and the other one is how do we keep selling? The selling part is extremely difficult because in a fast-changing environment, the clients do not know what they're buying anymore. So if you tell them you're going to get great research, say, yeah, but I could do the same for cheap. If you say, I'm selling you quality assurance, they say, yeah, but for now I'm okay. Until there's a massive disaster. We heard about the several stories from Deloitte, for example, where in decks they were, it was obvious it was copy-paste from an AI and the clients asked for reimbursement, for example. No later than today, I heard another story here in the Emirates where a consultancy had done a deck for a government client, and at the end it was written, would you like to know some more? Because the consultant had just copy pasted the text from the AI, and it was a real disaster. So it's really difficult to sell. We see some emerging traction of the people that are at the forefront of using AI, that have some experience, that have seen more than once problems with the AI. But until you're there, it's difficult. So on the one end, we sell our legacy services of research, which I think still have a lot of value because having research done by researcher is significantly higher quality, especially when it's below the flotation line that I was mentioning before when it comes to research. So we sell our former offering, which still has relevance, as well as a new offering that we think is going to be the future, but for now is just at the very beginning. So it's a very challenging moment when it comes to sell. Fortunately, we work with great names, great clients, and they have significant recurring volumes. So we are weathering the storm. When it comes to the AI, I think it's interesting. It's one of the few technology markets where there wasn't a winner takes all. In search engines, there was a winner takes all. Google killed the market. When it comes to professional social networks, LinkedIn killed the market. When it came to LLMs, you have Anthropic with Claude, which is now the leading one. Before that, it was ChatGPT. Gemini is out there. There's multiple options. There's Mistral as well. There's multiple options. So the competitive edge is not about the technology itself, but how to use it. And that's where I think the value lies more in the layer you put on top of the AI as opposed to the AI itself. So our strategy at Infomineo is to do what we call an orchestrator. The tool that we have basically provides a suite of services for researchers and data analysts. So if you ask our tool, which we call Brain, for a recipe for an apple pie, it's going to be a disaster. But if you ask for data about the GDP of Zambia over the last 70 years, that's going to be amazing. And by doing that, we create a series of tools that are very, very useful. I can mention just a few to give you more meats.
Sure.
One of them is what we call the prompt optimizer. A prompt, we all think that it's about asking, I want to know the GDP of Zambia over the last 70 years. That's not good enough, far from it. A good prompt is something that is around 300 words. What the tool allows to do is to ask the question to a person. By GDP, do you mean GDP in dollar terms, in PPP, in this, in that? By the last 70 years, you want quarterly data, monthly data, or yearly data, whatever. Zambia actually had a regime change and the accounting change over time, and so on and so forth, until you have a prompt that is 300 words. That is amazing. And then the next thing we do, we don't use one model. We use multiple models. We do that for mostly two reasons. It's very difficult to know at any moment in time which model is the best one. So we continually monitor, Claude against the ChatGPT, against Gemini, and so on. But you never know if it's a little like a little horse's race, right? One passing the other and passing the other. The first is we always want to leverage the best tools. The second is about hallucinations. All the models hallucinate, and more often than you wish they did. And how do you spot hallucinations? What these models are amazing at is being credible. What they get is like super credible. You want to believe in it. And it takes a lot of your effort to doubt it. And how do you know that they are hallucinating? What we do is we send the same request in 3 models. Then we have an engine that actually summarizes the results from 3 models and says all the things that are common to the models and all the things that are different. So there might be things that are different because the model think differently, but there might be things that are just hallucinations. You know that the models will hallucinate in a unique way. And therefore, by doing that, you know that you can spot 100% of the hallucinations. Then whether you act on it depends on you and you're smart enough to realize that it's a problem, but at least that's one of the things that we do. So you see, we put a number of layers on top of the LLMs to make them smarter and more adapted to our use case. And by the way, you were telling me about sales and what do we sell? Until now, we sell mostly analysts' time. But in the future, it might well be that we sell our tool, Brain, as a specialized engine that helps researchers or professionals that use a lot of data perform better research than if it were to use the out-of-the-box ChatGPT or Claude.
Great. No, thanks for sharing. That seems very interesting, and it seems that you're still with the flow, trying to be on top of things and having that human in the loop to get the quality data out of the the process there.
And by the way, just on that, if I may, you say
Yes.
human. I don't like that concept at all. Human in the loop means the human is informed and he looks at it in a rather passive. What we want to do instead is human in control. So what we program our orchestrator is you do a first task and then you stop. You ask the human to validate, to contradict you, whatever. They have to be committed to control you, to orient you. What many people do is they send the LLM, do something, they go for a coffee and they come back and they have no control about what happened, what was the reasoning, and so on. We really want to be in control and keep in control. Otherwise, it could go really south.
Great. No, thanks for clarifying that. I think that's very helpful, and we totally agree with that. And that really takes us to the human side of the things. So I'll hand it out to Francis here.
Thank you, Luis. Martin, that was fascinating, very interesting. Love the fact that you've pivoted so fast, at the same time defended really the core of what you do, and not embrace, the easy solutions, which, AI delivers a lot, the illusion that it can be done easy. I think it's an accelerator, but then, as you know, and actually, if you go back to the analogy of the Ferrari, the faster the car, the better the driver. Because otherwise we have problems. Okay. And I like also this notion of human in control, so yeah. So in respect to the delivery and the process, because the process implies a different delivery, right? So now 300 people steering an organization, you're in a slowing down and accelerating mode, I'm sure. So how is the urgency for you to really shift those 300 people on the boat? How urgent it is?
Yeah, it's a good question. We always hired for talent, not for skill. What I mean by that is we hired young grad that were smart through case interviews and so on. And as it happens, we specialize them in doing research in the beginning, or in doing data analytics, or doing translation. But we have a few things that we do. But in a way, we take smart people, we train them. And now their job is changing because it's not so much about being great at Googling, analyzing reports, summarizing the reports. It is great about prompting, analyzing results from an AI, doubting the results, enriching them, and so on. But it's still the same smart people. So the way we do that, instead of firing the old staff and hiring new people, is retraining our staff. So we have a massive investment in training. It's always been the case in the company. More than 10% of the available hours in the company are spent in training, which is half a day a week for every single employee of the company. So training has always been there because our edge is about what is in the brains of our people, hence the brainshoring theme. So we want to be on top of what's happening with AI. And I think we're not bad. We're not great at the technology itself. We're great users. We are very experts at what can be done with AI. And we train our people to be expert at AI. And on this shift from, executing research and only executing research to, doing quality assurance on someone else's research, the interesting thing is a person that would have been a junior, so that would execute and then would have a manager that would review. It makes a junior a manager now because he's going to review the work for someone else. So it puts the bar even higher than it was before, because trust me, to receive a deliverable, look at whether it is consistent, it makes sense, requires industry expertise, requires critical thinking, requires the ability to track down how a model worked and so on, makes the bar even higher from an intellectual standpoint. So I think that it makes the job of our employees even more challenging and more interesting than it was before.
And maybe there's also, lots of good things. I love we're not AI experts, but we're users experts, of AI. That's a great line. And of course, your commitment to training your skill, your people, and also the way you recruited them, which I think has been showing in this particular time very useful too, right? You were looking people that, regardless of the task, will be able. So then there's one big aspect that I've discussed a lot with people like you in tech, and that's adaptation, and behavioral science. So, what about adapting in this whirlwind of change that you're going through?
That's very interesting. Let me take two angles. First angle was a strong belief that business is not really about science, action, reaction, 1+1=2, but more that business is something about emotional responses, human beings making decisions. And we implemented a very interesting framework a few years back, which was called emotional intentions, developed by a friend called Jo Sejean. Essentially, the idea was to say, in business, if you want to get a reaction, you need to trigger emotions to people. To trigger the emotions, you need to exert certain behavior. And you need to figure out what are the moments where people form these impressions. There are key moments. I don't know, when you're applying to a company, when you send your CV, the first email you get is critical. I guess the first impression, or the first person you meet is critical. And then how do you change your behavior? Why am I saying that? Is because we understand how emotions play in the workplace. I guess our people are more adaptable because they are focusing on the outcome and not so much on the process and when it's done. So that's the first element. The second is I realize that there are people that are flexible, agile, and there are people that are process orientated. It's not about having 100% of people that are flexible and adaptable or 100% of people that are process orientated. You need both. In accounting, trust me, you don't want people that are too creative. Or on a few functions. The question is, what is the mix? What we're trying to do is to get 80% roughly very flexible, adaptable, fast, keen on change and keen to change, and a small 20% of people that are the guardians of tradition of, that's the way it's done, this is the process, and so on. So in this transition, most people have adapted fairly well to the new environment, and only a handful did not want to change or didn't feel like changing. And that there are people that we didn't even force them to leave. They just figured that the environment was changing so much they didn't feel comfortable anymore, and then they moved on and in other roles. And funnily enough, when we started Infomineo, we did the same. It was a transition between research done by librarians. So people were trained in library services. Their skill was to find where the information was and give the source to people, into researchers would open the source, figure out the information and get the deliverable, from librarians to analysts. And in a way, our model was to replace librarians with analysts through outsourcing. And now we have that transition from being researchers into being orchestrators of AI and so on. For most of our people, because of the way we hired, it works out fairly well. But for some that see themselves as pure researchers and only researchers and do not want to embrace AI, it's a challenge.
For sure. Okay, I love this idea. I researched this gentleman, and a lot of similarities with the work we do. I mean, when you apply it to, let's say, the consumer-facing side, we apply it to internal, workforce, and we map out behavioral preferences and tendencies so that we can build teams that work well together, that innovate well together, and that respect those who are more on the adaptive side than on the process side. And 80% of adaptive people versus 20% of non-adaptive people, it's kind of opposite to the statistics on the market, right? On the job market, So they've assembled a powerful team. Would love to discuss more about that with you, because I think it's a remarkable statistics that you're talking about. And
it's not scientific. I'm just saying, there's two.
No, but it's okay. Vast majority. I get it.
Yeah, there are two things that explain that. One is we're based mostly in emerging markets where people tend to be more flexible in general to change because the environment is less certain. And second, our team is very young. We hire people that are young grads. And on average, the age, last time I checked, we were 27 years old in the company. And I think that's two factors that help getting that mix towards the adaptive model more so than the conservative one.
That's wonderful, wonderful. So we will have to end the conversation. I mean, I feel like you should come back and we have more conversations. I mean, it's very insightful. Thank you very, very much, Martin. Our pleasure to keep in contact with you and connect you with people in the network. You know, if there's any synergy that we can find for yourself, and share more about what we do for you, if there's anything that could be of relevance. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Martin. Until next time. This is
Thank
the end
you.
of our podcast. Sure.